All right, Tom Lee breaks it down why they chose Ethereum. And I agree with Tom Lee. I'm thinking, okay, Bitcoin is already been adopted now by institutions, by governments, by companies, 401ks real soon, if not happening now. Ethereum as the number 2 crypto asset, the top layer 1 platform, this is the next thing to pop. All of the altcoins, for the most part, they pump after Ethereum pumps. So we want to see Ethereum pump. We got our Bitcoin pump. Now it's Ethereum's time. And Tom Lee, who's been spot on about Bitcoin, he's been spot on about many of the equities that are popping, is eyeing Ethereum. Now, let's hit the major news that is starting all this catalyst. On Friday, July 18th, 2025, the president signed into law, this is the Genius Act, the Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act, or Genius Act, which provides for the regulation of payment, stablecoins, and for other purposes. Here is Circle. I think, again, as a public company, should be the biggest winner for stablecoins in general. Make money movement your competitive edge. And again, Circle got it right here. The Genius Act is now into law. Circle was built for this moment. Now let's go check it out. The U.S. has officially made financial history. The Genius Act marks a significant milestone for stablecoin legislation in the United States and a clear path forward for USDC. So we got regulatory certainty, we have consumer protection, institutional confidence, dollar leadership. So regulated, secure, fully reserved, globally accessible, transparent, and assured. And again, if you really think about it, where is USDC the most at? It is definitely on Ethereum. And then I would say the number 1 Ethereum layer 2 base is doing a lot of work with USDC. So we got Tether out there. Tether is going to get its wins, but we're going to focus on USDC because in the United States, you also want the US dollar. And when they mean fully reserved, right, you got every USDC in circulation is backed by a US dollar and cash equivalent assets that Circle has in its public visible reserves. What is a cash equivalent asset? That is a US Treasury. This bill in general promotes and pumps the US dollar. So you got 1-to-1 backed dollars being held, and then you got US Treasuries. The United States needs to sell that debt in order to stay competitive with other currencies around the world, especially when you got countries like China and Japan dumping their dollars. Now is the time to put crypto companies to replace some of these countries. Pretty dope. And Ethereum is the benefactor. Now let's check out the biggest news here. Ethereum news. Ethereum ETFs mark 1-year anniversary with record 332 million inflow streak. That's a whole lot of Ethereum going into ETFs. 1 year popping. And I told y'all last week, I like the iShares ETF of Ethereum because you can also trade options on it. So where my option traders at? Here's the next headline. SEC chair declares ETH is not a security, a new dawn for crypto regulation. So again, the Genius Act being signed into law. Circle's USDC is mostly on Ethereum. It is on the base network. It's on all the layer 2s as well as many of the altcoin chains. Ethereum ETFs hits its 1-year anniversary. Massive inflows. It's doing great in the stock market. Then you get Ethereum not being a security. It is established as a mature blockchain. We got something I think is also very important. The Ether Machine CEO, the largest beneficiary of the Genius Act, is Ethereum. So this guy and a few of his other investors created a company called the Ether Machine. The Ether machine is all about Ethereum. Accumulate, buy Ethereum, and then get yields out of Ethereum from staking and DeFi. Now, check out this clip about the Ether machine.
Let me ask you a different question just about the Genius Act. How much of that changes this?
So the largest beneficiary of the Genius Act is Ethereum, because the majority of stablecoins are deployed on top of Ethereum. Ethereum is experiencing power law dynamics where 90% of tokenized assets and stablecoins are deployed on Ethereum, similar to the power law dynamics of Google, where 90% of searches happen with Google. And Yahoo gets a small percentage, or Bing gets 1%.
What do you think the biggest risk is to this new business of yours and to Ethereum itself, which is to say, how much do you worry about some other coin or other kind of tokenization effort competing with Ethereum?
I don't worry about that, because I think that Ethereum is the only blockchain that is able to be a substrate for the decentralized global economy.
This is another example. You got Bitmine with Tom Lee. You got this guy here with the Ether machine. They're all having a strategic or a treasury asset for Ethereum. It's all about Ethereum right now. And I found a dope site right here, strategicreserve.xyz. The strategic ETH reserve is basically tracking all of the companies that is putting Ethereum on the balance sheet. Again, we saw what happened when MicroStrategy put that plan out. They've been doing this since about 25 years of accumulating Bitcoin. Then you got BlackRock, all the ETFs launched. You got all of these companies following the MicroStrategy blueprint. So they now are looking for another undervalued asset. Ethereum is a no-brainer. So here we are, total strategic ETH reserves, 2.31 million ETH, which is 8.6 billion in dollars, which is about 2% of the supply, 61 participants. Total ETF ETH holdings, 5.61 million, which is 20.93 billion, which is close to 5% of the supply. So you got the strategic ETH reserves, and then you have the ETF holdings. Because every time the ETF get inflows, they have to buy more Ethereum off the market so they can match the holdings. And it is popping. You got right here, public companies. Bitmine Immersion Tech is holding 500,000 ETH. That's over $2 billion. SharpLink Gaming, SBET. People have been talking about SBET all over Twitter. They are holding 300,060 ETH, which is 1.34 billion. The Ethereum Foundation, Vitalik and them, is holding slightly under 900 million Ethereum. The Ether machine, I just showed you the clip of them. They are holding 170,000 Ethereum worth 633 million. Then you got Pulse Chain, which is holding 166,000 ETH at 619 million. And then number 6, we got Coinbase holding 137,000 ETH, about $500 million. And then the list goes on. You got the U.S. government, Genosis DAO, Golem Foundation, Bit Digital, Lido DAO, Ethereum Naming Service, Arbitrum, Optimism Foundation, On-Chain Foundation, ETH Strategy, Aave DAO, and it just goes on. It goes on. In the future, we're going to see a lot more of this happening. Now, if we go to the public treasuries, obviously, again, Bitmine, SharpLink, Ether Machine, top 3. Then we have the ETF inflows. The numbers are increasing. This is ETH-A, the iShares that I was just telling you about. Then you got ETH-E, ETH, F-ETH, W, ETH, W. It's all the ETHs up in there. They're all holding on to Ethereum. Ethereum is becoming a big winner.